Good evening, YouTube. So I already made a video on tipping, and I forgot to talk about tip pools. So I'm gonna make a video today about tip pools, which is when in the service industry where you collect all the tips and you divide them up amongst the workers. Usually it's an even split. Sometimes it's a certain percentage. And my thoughts on tip pools are that they don't work. It usually doesn't work because in order for it to work, everyone has to pull their weight. I got a job about a year ago at a restaurant as a food runner, and it was a part-time job that a friend of mine who was a neighbor who was a manager asked me, hey, if you have some free time, you could come over here, pull a shift every now and then. And I was like, okay, cool. He goes, it's $10 an hour plus tips. I'm like, all right, that sounds pretty good. And he said they share the tips, and since it was just a part-time job, I didn't mind that I wasn't gonna make a lot of money, but I was like, whatever, I'll take what I can get right now. And so I went over there and I worked maybe like 2 or 3 days a week, just 6 hours a day. Anywho, I noticed that, like I said, I'm always a hard worker. That's just in my nature. No matter where I'm working, I'm gonna pull my own weight. And it pisses me off when I had to share my tips with people who are lazy, people who are on their phone or just sitting down all the time. And the other workers were supposed to also bus tables, bring out food, do the same work I was doing, but most of the time they were just being lazy with it. And I was like, I told the manager first time, I was like, hey bro, again, this isn't fair. They're not pulling their weight, and and I wouldn't complain about it. So I usually don't give a damn if somebody else isn't pulling their weight. But since we're sharing the tip, I have to put my 2 cents in. Like, I don't want them to, they're cutting into my pocket and they're not working. And it's all right, I'll let them know. And this went on. I told them a second time, another day, it was going on. And then after the third time, I was like, look, this is the last time I'm telling you this. I'm sick and tired of this. If this keeps going on, I'm just bouncing, because I don't like working with people who aren't pulling their weight, and I have to split my money with them. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the other people who are also hard workers. And eventually, I just ended up leaving, and the business ended up going out of business, because it was a bad restaurant. Anywho. That was my first real experience with something like that, and I looked up online, and tip pools just don't work, and it's another way for restaurants to basically underpay their staff, because they don't want to pay the cooks, the people who usually don't get tips. They don't want to pay them well, so they decided to split the money, and that way they could pay the people in the back a little bit more money. And in this restaurant, the managers were also getting part of the tips, and I was like, this isn't fair. The managers already getting paid a lot of money, and then to get even the tip money, it was kind of shady how they were splitting up the tips. I didn't like it. And then one time I pocketed some tip money, and the reason I pocketed it was I found a phone. So first of all, I'm already working really hard. I'll bring this dude his food, and I'm give great good conversation and everything. And I ask, hey, you need anything? You need any ketchup, whatever. Anyways, the dude bounced, and he's already getting in his car. I saw his cell phone that he left it on the table. I snag it up, take it to him in the parking lot. He tells me, oh man, I appreciate it. This is my life and everything. He pulled out and he gave me $20. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep this $20 because he had already tipped. This was just extra. I was like, I'm just keeping this for my cell phone, for the giving him the cell phone. And the other workers were like, hey, that's ours too. You got to split that. I'm like, hey man, this has nothing to do with me, with this work. This is just something extra. And they kind of got mad. I was like, I'm not splitting this $20. I put that in my pocket and I let them have it. And not too far after that, I left. Anyways, it's just splitting pay with workers. It doesn't seem fair. When I bar backed, most of the time here, at least here in Galveston, bar backs get 20% of the tips. And again, to me that 20%, it's sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not enough for the amount of work that I do. And again, it depends on who I'm working, because if I had a bartender that was amazing, we will make a lot of money. Man, I will look on a schedule and see who's going to be my coworker that day, because depending on who I'm working with, I know if I'm gonna make great money or I'm gonna make nothing. I'm gonna barely get by, because it is. Some bartenders know the hustle. They know this is a business, and you're in the service industry. You have to be quick with it. You have to talk to the customers. Ask, get to know them, make conversation with them. Some bartenders are lazy. They won't do table service. They'll stay behind the bar. They see somebody sitting down, they're not even gonna address them. Even if it's slow. I was like, hey man, we're here to make money. Some already know the game. They see somebody sit down, even though most of these bars don't do table service. They get behind the bar, go over there, take them the drinks, have a conversation, give them a hug, and we make amazing money. We make over $1,000 in tips. And the other bartenders, they're always outside smoking a cigarette or on their phone. It takes forever to get a drink, and again, the tips will reflect that, and then I got to get 20% out of nothing, And again, I hate sharing tips, because again, it's you're at the will of your coworkers. If your coworkers are amazing, it pays off. If they're not, it's you're getting robbed. So that's my thought on tip pools. They pretty much, they're not going to work, because in all likelihood you're never going to have an A team. You're always going to have somebody who's not pulling their weight, and it's a rarity. So that's the topic of today. So what are your ideas? Have you ever been in a tip pool where you had to share tip money? What are your experiences with this? All right, that's it for today.